Welcome back to Sci-Fi Book Trek. This week, we'll be dealing with...
Matt Damon. Matt Damon. Matt Damon.
and The Martian. The Martian was originally written in 2011 by Andy Weir. It's his first novel at the time. Weir was looking for a publisher for it, could not find one, and instead of letting all the work go to waste, he self-published it in his own website and decided to just let people have it for free, chapter by chapter. Eventually he did put up a version on Amazon Kindle, which he sold for 99 cents, which was the minimum amount that he could actually put it up for. But it then went on to hit Amazon's best-selling lists very, very quickly, which then brought it to the attention of, I believe it's Crown Publishing?
Yeah.
Where they actually did take it on, and he sold it for $100,000 US, I believe.
It's
I think
something like that. I didn't fully look into
Mm.
how much the price was.
But yes, it is an example of successful self-publishing, which makes it quite unique in that respect.
But also, serializations of books hasn't died.
Yeah.
In 128 years.
So most of the book revolves around Mark Watney, the titular Martian, and his battle for survival against the elements, against problems, and just his drive to overcome and to escape the surface of Mars.
To survive.
And
get back up.
And that is one of the major themes of the book, is that the idea of human ingenuity and the drive to never give up in the face of adversity.
Never give up. Never surrender.
Oh, shut up.
Which it pretty much does its job, I think.
And also, go back to, this was published first in 2011. And for that year, I looked up a few facts. One, Curiosity, which is mentioned.
Yes.
Curiosity was launched in 2011, same year. Published on its blog. Minecraft was in,
Beta.
launch mode. No, it launched.
Oh, that was the official launch.
The official launch was 2011. And also, it was the end of the space shuttle program.
Yes, the Atlantis, the last shuttle to go up. I've actually visited that. Really interesting exhibit on NASA grounds.
Just to give you a bit background of when it was wrote.
Ooh.
So, overall, what was your feelings of it?
I like this book. I kind of like the way that it's set out in journal format. You're getting an idea of what Watney's going through, what his thoughts are, without having to rely on sort of the Dune-esque going into third person in order to determine what he's actually thinking. Swaps back between the journal format and the normal narrative structure, which would be the NASA guys on the ground, and that's more like a traditional novel.
Personally, to go into my sort of review, I did not like this book.
Okay.
Mainly because Mark Watney. I did not like him as a character, as a human being, as anything.
Now, this is interesting.
I just detested the little thing.
Okay.
For me, I'll go into it in spoilers, but I liked every other character apart from Mark Watney. And you spend, 80 to 90% of the book with Mark Watney on his own. So for me, I found it a slog.
Okay.
I just could not, because he's the main linchpin. If you like him, or at least, I would say empathise, but I kind of did empathise at some points. But for me, he became so unlikable, I could not empathise with him. I just disliked him
Okay.
on every level. I just wanted to just strangle him.
This is going to be an interesting spoiler review.
Well, yeah, but anyway, that's why I think overall for me, I didn't like The Martian, just because I could not like Mark.
Hmm.
And that was, my biggest, I would say, like, my biggest problem with it.
Okay.
You
Fair
don't know where
enough.
to go from here, do you?
Well, this is the thing. I don't have an issue with Watney. I don't have an issue with any of the characters particularly. All of the characters that were introduced to. There are certain characters that don't seem to really have a place, but they have to be there because they fulfill a role.
Yes.
But they don't get much other than just, yes, I'm here. This is what I do. Move on. Like you say, the fact that the story is so heavily featured around Watney, if you don't like him, then it is going to obviously colour your enjoyment of the the entire narrative.
Like the last few pages I liked where, I mean, no spoilers, there are a few more characters in last few pages. I liked that part. Didn't really like the last page where it was Watney, but not to say what happens to Watney, but he has the final word, and I wanted to punch him.
Does your book feature the epilogue?
I don't know, probably not.
Yeah, there was a 268 word epilogue, which obviously deals with events after the conclusion of the book.
That's not in my book, my version.
But there were, because the book that we have and Weir's original manuscript that he put up on his website are different. Apparently, when it was taken over by the publishing company, there were multiple instances of profanity that were removed. There were extra bits and pieces that were modified, certain scientific elements that were corrected, and sensible things like spell checking, grammar, punctuation, that type of stuff was improved. But it does bring me to a point that has bothered me, admittedly, about this book, and that is the idea that things can be changed after the fact.
Yeah.
And that does wind me up.
Yeah.
I mean, for a start off, my first introduction to this book was a Kindle version. And it wasn't back in 2011. It was recommended to me by one of my colleagues who I was working with at the time. But when I had my original ebook version, my original Kindle version, the cover was completely different to that.
Well, was it this orange cover?
I believe it was a different cover even to that.
This was before the film, because there's a printed sticker on saying soon to be a major motion picture starring Matt Damon.
And there he is. But it has wound me up in recent years that with ebooks you can go back in it as a publisher, as a company that's producing them, you can go back into an ebook, modify the content, and then just release that as an update. And people don't necessarily notice until, of course, they open up their ebook and go, "Why is the cover changed?" And that is what happened with my copy. when I went back into it after the film had released, and then suddenly Matt Damon's staring at me from out of the screen, it's like, well, I don't like that cover. It just bothers me that companies have this habit of, whenever there's a film being released of it, they have this horrible habit of putting the flipping film poster onto the cover rather. It's inevitably the actor's face as opposed to being on theme with the book.
I believe it sells more, and they keep doing it, so in theory, it must be selling more.
I know, it's just, there's no...
I mean, but anyway, to go back to your point about they took out some of the profanity, I'm not sure which version mine is, but I kind of got tired of him swearing. Like, I'm not someone who's ever really cared about swearing.
Fuck no.
Well, yeah. But it's just, I got tired of him swearing. Just because he would use the word fuck to mean I'm fucked or fuck off. That's the only versions he would use. Or shit, he used it, I think, once, maybe twice, not to refer to actual, manure, like his own excrement. Or that's the only swear words he knows, and he doesn't even hyphenate them or stick extra words to them or mess about with them. It's just bog standard. It just drove me mad. It's like,
that's kind of funny that would bother you. It's like brooding.
I think it's because I disliked Watney character. Everything he started to do just started to annoy me. But yeah, the swearing thing was almost initially, I was like, either learn to swear with more clever ways, or hyphenate stuff, or use more swear words. Well, just don't swear. I'm like, you're a professional astronaut. Why are you swearing in your official log?
I love the idea that he's a professional astronaut, and you think that astronauts part of astronaut training has got. It's like, we must use different international swears.
Well, no, it's not even international. He doesn't, use twat, gob, shite, like any other words. I could go on, but YouTube. But it's just, he only uses fuck. I mean, he might use the word dick at one point, or that might be someone in NASA. But it's very tame.
I do believe there is
basic
a point
swearing, but repeated.
I do believe there is a point where he says, "Eat a dick, Mars."
Yeah, I think that might be what I'm referring to. But it's it feels very much, 16-year-old teenager to me. And I was like, just stop swearing. You can't do it right. Stop swearing.
I mean, the thing is, you are right. If you don't, you're more likely to nitpick something. You're more likely to get more into the details if you're not enjoying yourself. I mean, I found that with multiple things.
Sheer fucking hubris. Shut the fuck up.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are a number of things, but the swearing thing I noticed from page 1 because on page 1. So that started, I was like, okay. But it never progresses. It never sort of evolves.
Oh, yeah, the Wikipedia entry for The Martian, as in the book of The Martian, actually has ties to several similar books. One of the books that's mentioned is A Fall of Moondust, the Arthur C. Clarke novel. As we were talking about in Rendezvous with Rama, about the comparisons between Clarke's writing and Weir's writing, would you say that is still valid? From your perspective now, because...
From my perspective, the problem is the shadow of Mark Watney looms large over this for me. I would say no. I would say a hard no.
Okay.
For me, it skips over too many science bits which might be interesting, and instead just it feels like it gets bogged down with some of the minutiae and like lists. Like I don't know. For me, I don't like it. I think it spends the wrong time exploring science parts than it should be.
Okay.
I mean, like, I've got no criticism with the actual writing of Andy Weir. That is fine. And, like, he can do characters because there are all the other characters I don't like. And he kind of does, a good job with them.
Mm.
But I don't like the main character, so
That's obviously a
for
sticking
me,
point for your recommendation. Yeah. Well, that's fair enough. For my point, I enjoyed it. I thought the science was pretty in depth, and there's lots of little bits and pieces that I've got to go in. I'll have to go into this in spoilers. There's certain things that I think, as an astrobotanist, Watney is getting on the verges of Gary Stu. But yeah,
I would say he's so far past Gary Stu, you can't even see Gary Stu. But yeah,
but
anyway.
on the whole, I still enjoyed the book. It's an interesting read, and if nothing else, the themes of perseverance and not giving up and human ingenuity.
Yeah.
It's not a bad read if you just want to get that out of it. But here's where we leave you. We'll go into the spoilers review, which will be up next week. Hope you've enjoyed, guys. And once again, we'll see you next time. Bye. Don't look at the screen. Camera.
Who are you talking to, me or you?
Both.